Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to crack a code you use every single day, a system so deep inside how we talk that we don't even notice it's there. We're talking about the secret engine that makes every single sentence work. So, how does this whole thing actually work? Well, let's dive right in with a really cool puzzle from the Japanese language. It's a question that gets right to the heart of how grammar creates meaning, almost like magic. Okay, so look at these two sentences. On the surface, they look practically identical, right? They use the exact same three main words, taro, hanako, and the verb for scolded. But here's the kicker. They describe two totally opposite situations. In the first one, Taro is doing the scolding. In the second, Hanako is. So what's going on? How is that even possible? What's the hidden switch here that just flips the entire meaning on its head? All right, to figure this out, we need to put on our detective hats. The very first step is to break the sentence down into its most basic parts. You've got the action, and you've got the actors who are part of that action. You see, at the heart of any sentence, you've got the action. Linguists have a name for this. They call it the predicate. You can just think of it as the engine of the sentence. It tells us what happened. So in our little puzzle, the predicate is the verb scolded. That's the main event that everything else is revolving around. But of course, an action like scolding can't just happen all by itself, right? It needs participants to make any sense. These essential players, the who or what of the story, are called arguments. I mean, you can't just have scolding floating out in space. The verb itself demands that someone is doing the scolding and someone else is getting scolded. Now, here's a really important distinction. You have to separate these essential actors, the arguments, from what you might call the optional extras. You could add extra details, right? Like Taro scolded Hanako yesterday or in the kitchen. Linguists call those adjuncts. They add a little flavor, but you can take them away and the main story is still there. The sentence, Taro scolded Hanako, works. The core story only needs its arguments. Okay, so we've got our action, the predicate, and we've got our actors, the arguments. But that still doesn't solve our puzzle. How does the sentence know who did what? How does it assign the role of scolder to Taro and the one being scolded to Hanako? Well, this is where grammar gets really, really cool. The solution is a concept called case. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like a stage director for the sentence. Case points to each actor, each argument, and tells them exactly what their role is in the scene. It's this invisible layer of grammar that shows us precisely how everyone is connected to the main action. And this is what's so great about Japanese. It makes this system totally visible. In our first sentence, look at that tiny little particle, ga, that's attached to Taro. That particle is a case marker. It's basically a little name tag that says, hey, this guy Taro, he's the agent. He's the one doing the action. Okay, now let's look at Hanako. She's got a particle too, O. That's another case marker. And this one labels her as the patient, the person on the receiving end of the scolding. So ga points to the doer, and O points to the one it's being done to. Simple as that. The roles are now crystal clear. So let's go back to our big mystery. In that second sentence, the main words, Hanako, Taro, scolded, they're all in the exact same order. And this is the key, the case markers, those little particles ga and O, they've been swapped. And boom, with just that one tiny change, the entire meaning of the sentence does a complete 180. Now, Hanako is the agent and Taro is the patient. And just like that, puzzle solved. You know, this whole job of assigning roles to the actors, it's something every single language on the planet has to do. But as we're about to see, they all have pretty different ways of getting it done. And yeah, as you can see, the toolkits are pretty varied. Japanese, like we just saw, uses those handy little particles. A language like Mandarin Chinese relies almost entirely on word order. Who comes first determines their role. Then you have ancient languages like Sanskrit, which did something else entirely. They actually changed the endings of the words. That's called inflection. And English, well, we're kind of a mix. Word order is definitely king. Dog bites man is not man bites dog. But we also use a little bit of inflection, like when we change he to him. But wait, where did these instructions even come from? Well, the really mind-blowing part is that this entire system, this need for certain actors and certain roles, it all starts with the verb itself. Every single verb you know comes with its own kind of secret recipe, a built-in list of what it needs to make sense. Linguists call this secret recipe a verb's valency. And all that means is the number of essential arguments a verb has to have. And what's wild is that your brain just knows this recipe, intuitively, for every verb in your vocabulary. So some verbs are super simple. Take a verb like to bloom. It's what we call a one-place predicate. Its recipe only calls for one ingredient, one argument, the thing that's doing the blooming. The flower bloomed. That's it. The story's complete with just one actor. Then you've got your two-place predicates. Think about to see, or our original verb, to scold. Their recipe needs two arguments. You need someone doing the seeing, and you need something that is being seen. If I just say, I saw, it feels unfinished, doesn't it? But I saw the movie. That's a complete thought. And, you guessed it, things can get even more complex. Verbs like to send or to give are three-place predicates. Their recipe is more demanding. It needs three arguments to tell the whole story. You need a sender, you need something that was sent, and you need someone who received it. All three are essential. Now, this super detailed recipe, the one that tells you not just how many arguments you need, but also what roles they play, that has a name too. It's called a verb's case frame. So the case frame for to send in Japanese is like a perfect blueprint. It needs an agent with ga, a goal with ni, and a theme with o. It's the verb's own little instruction manual for building a sentence. Okay, and this all leads to something that is just amazing about language. It's why a single word, all by itself, can sometimes be a complete message. Like if your friend just asks you, sent? Your brain just springs into action. You don't just hear the word. You subconsciously pull up its entire case frame. You instantly know the recipe requires a sender, a recipient, and an object. So your brain immediately starts searching the context to fill in those blanks. Who sent what to whom? That is the hidden power of a verb. So, you see, grammar isn't just some boring set of rules you had to memorize in school. It's this beautiful, hidden system that's always running in the background. It's the code that lets us build entire worlds of meaning out of just a few sounds. And it really makes you wonder, right? What does this hidden architecture of language tell us about the architecture of our own minds?